Well, it's not every day you come across a Maya Blue Range Rover Sport SVR. Let's check it out. It's not too common on this channel where I pick a vehicle from the lot that isn't new. But sometimes you have to have exceptions to make things interesting. And I am beyond excited to take a look at this Range Rover Sport SVR that we have here today. Now, as I mentioned, it is in Maya Blue, and some of you are probably wondering, wait a minute, this is kind of unique. I've never seen this on any other Range Rover. Well, you're correct, because this is the Ultimate Edition. This is the last round of SVRs to ever be produced back in 22. And now, as we all know, to get a V8, you have to be invited to get the SV Edition 1 or Edition 2 for 2025. So if you love your Range Rover Sport, but you want a V8, maybe taking a look at the prior generation SVR is going to be a great choice. In this video, we're going to find out what makes the SVR Ultimate Edition so special, why it's so enticing 2 years later, and also to see if you are looking at buying a muscular SUV that gives you the exhilaration that you want behind the wheel, maybe taking a look at an older SVR might be a great decision. Now, before we get in this video, I want to give a huge shout and thank you to Land Rover of Peabody in Peabody, Massachusetts, for letting me come down here to check out the SVR Ultimate Edition. Their link will be in the description below, so you can check out their extensive Land Rover inventory. To better understand what makes the SVR Ultimate Edition so special and unique, we first have to take a look at pricing. So back in 2022, this last model year run and last edition came in with a starting cost of just over $141,000, which, to put that into perspective, is about $20,000 more than a base SVR of its day. But also, for someone who wants a V8 out of a Range Rover Sport, if you look at where the new SV Edition 1 is, the SVR Ultimate Edition really isn't that bad in regards to its pricing, because the new SV Edition 1, which there is one available here at Land Rover of Peabody, someone backed out of their allocation, comes in with a starting cost of just over $181,000. So there's a $40,000 price gap right there. But when you are comparing both generations, there's nothing in common at all in regards to the horsepower, the powertrain, the suspension, chassis, and platform. Everything is different. And I think that for a lot of people who are traditional and wants to have an old school Range Rover experience, this is the model to go for. Whereas the new Edition 1, and it is phenomenal, it is fantastic. I think it is designed and engineered for a completely different type of buyer and for a more premium and upscale buyer at that, especially with the pricing. But even for a regular Range Rover Sport now for 2024, there's a lot of differences in regards to its on-road attributes and just its overall refinement that definitely sets itself apart from what we have here today. In regards to the exterior appearance for the Ultimate Edition, it begins with the exclusive paint color options. And you had 3 to choose from back in 22, one being Maya Blue like we have here today, also Marl Gray, and a more satin finished black. Those 2 other color options were more of the safer options to choose from, where if you were somebody that wanted to be a bit more lower profile as you were driving up and down a city street, you would go with that. But I have a feeling that if you were somebody who lived around Rodeo Drive and you loved accelerating up and down that street with this supercharged V8, you would go with Maya Blue. This is a baller color. This is a baller spec for this model, which is why I was drawn in and why I had to at least check this model out today, because 1, they're rare to find, but 2, it most certainly captivates you the minute you look at it and when you step inside. On top of that, there's some other accents that is exclusive to this model. So up front, you're going to notice the Range Rover badge in a carbon fiber finish. But outlining that is Fuji white accents, which also makes its way along the side profile as well, contrasting very well with the gloss black trim for the top portion of the Range Rover Sport, but also very well with the Maya Blue paint color. You also have 22-inch gloss black wheels that again gives you a lower profile appearance if you chose the other 2 color options, but goes very well with the model we have here today. Now, for some of you who are wondering, oh, the 22-inch alloy wheels, wouldn't that affect ride comfort and ride quality, or maybe even generate a lot of road noise? Not at all, because you have air suspension here, as you would have with any Range Rover product. And honestly, taking this vehicle out for a quick test drive, it is comfortable. It is so nice to drive. And honestly, I think it's still a great choice to go with today, even though the new Range Rover Sport is even more refined than what we have here on this generation. Up front, as with any other SVR, you're going to notice the larger air intakes that helps cool off the supercharged V8, but also ushers in airflow to the brake system, so that way you can keep those brakes cool when you're on a nice winding back road. Or maybe you take this to the track and you want to drag race a bit and experience that 0 to 60 time with this supercharged V8. You're going to have that confidence to slow down on a dime with these brakes, but you're also going to have that airflow to help out with the aerodynamics of this SUV. Now, not too much of a surprise, and maybe not even noteworthy at all, now that we're in the 2020s, you are going to have full LED headlights as well, giving the SVR a premium appearance on the roadways. Then as you make your way around to the back, you're going to notice the quad exhaust tips, again letting you know this is a V8 powered SUV. And I have to say, it does provide a lot of character to this model. And the minute you see those quad tips and you pull up next to that person, you know you're in trouble, because they're going to fly past you and they're going to leave you in the dust once that light turns green. What I also love about the SVR in general is the two-toned exterior, which I think is so classy, but also so traditional to what Land Rover and Range Rover is all about. And again, I think with the Maya Blue paint color, if this was only one color, it wouldn't have looked as good. To have the gloss black trim for the side mirror caps that also are power folding, but also the top portion of the Range Rover Sport does go a long way for this model. Then under the hood of the SVR Ultimate Edition, you have a 5-liter supercharged V8 engine producing 575 horsepower and 516 pound-feet of torque. It is paired with an 8-speed automatic transmission, and it goes from 0 to 60 in 4.3 seconds with a top speed of 176 miles per hour, which we are not going to be experiencing today at all, nowhere close, in fact. But back in 2022, this was the fastest Land Rover product out there. You could not find anything better. However, this Range Rover SVR ceded its crown to the SV Edition 1 with the 4.4-liter twin-turbo V8 from BMW, which is far quicker, far more capable of an SUV to take on premium luxury or high-end luxury SUVs. Whereas the SVR for 2022, even now 2 years later, is more of a vehicle that can compete with the more pedestrian Audi RS Q8 or even the BMW X5M. Whereas now with the new SV Edition 1, it's taking on a completely different animal and beast with its new powertrain, but also new chassis and suspension. Now, of course, as you would expect, fuel efficiency isn't the best. You're looking at around 15 miles per gallon in the city and 20 miles per gallon on the highway. But if you have the money to spend $140,000 back in 22, or even now with this still being around $100,000, fuel efficiency isn't too much of a surprise, or lack thereof of fuel efficiency isn't going to be hurting you at all. Stepping inside the Ultimate Edition, it's all about the accents. It's all about what you have here, being behind the wheel, and just indulging in what this vehicle is all about. You have a two-tone dashboard that also transitions to the door panels and the seats. The white and black goes so well with the interior, but also the exterior as well, with the Fuji white accents and also the gloss black top trim portion for the exterior of this vehicle. But also we have the extended carbon fiber package for the Ultimate Edition, giving us carbon fiber trim on the steering wheel, door panels, dashboard, and center console. So it has a nice sporty driving environment and persona that goes very well with a luxurious atmosphere of this SUV. Now for the driver and passenger, you have 16-way power adjustable heated and ventilated leather seats that give you a lot of support and bolstering. And even though these are not going to be like carbon bucket seats you're going to find in a sports car, when you're on those winding back roads, the twists and bends, or even when you're just accelerating in a straight line, these seats will keep you in place, they hug you, and just feels very snug being behind the wheel of this vehicle. Better yet, they give you a lot of support for the backs of these seats, so you're going to be very comfortable on a longer drive, or if you're just driving up and down a city street. Then taking a look at the technology, starting off with the full digital gauge cluster. Technically, this is a bit more of an outdated look because you now have the new technology inside the SV Edition 1, or of course the new Range Rover Sport for the new generation. But I have to say, Land Rover has done a fantastic job of giving you technology that looks and feels on par with Audi, Mercedes-Benz, BMW. Heck, I would even go as far to say this would be on par with Porsche and maybe even Bentley in regards to the resolution and quality. By using the buttons on the left side of the steering wheel, you can scroll through a variety of information and customize what you see from the screen, such as your navigation map. But also, with this digital gauge cluster being so in-depth, this feels very high quality and on par with manufacturers that are known to be the best in their segments. And I think that Range Rover, at least back in 2022, this was giving Audi and BMW a run for their money. Then we'll be taking a look at the user interface. If you are strictly looking at buying a prior generation Range Rover Sport, you're going to have a dual screen setup here. Now, we're not going to go too in depth on this since this is outdated technology and you're not going to find this in most Range Rover products. But you are going to have, for the top screen, this is your main head unit for the home screen, your camera systems, and also your navigation system. And the secondary screen is for your climate settings, your 3-level heated and ventilated seats, your drive mode selector, and vehicle settings. And I know some people are going to like this setup more in this generation than in the new SV Edition 1 because with the new Pivot Pro user interface, everything is all on one screen, and even your climate settings have to be accessed from that screen exclusively. Whereas with this Range Rover Sport, you have dials for that dual zone climate control up front. You're also going to notice for the center console, a dial for your drive mode selector and hill descent control. So everything is within arm's reach of the driver. As always, you will have 2 cup holders next to the gear shifter, which is also in a nice white finish, very classy, and pairs up very well with the white interior that we have here on our model. Then opening up the center storage compartment, you are going to notice 2 USB inputs. Better yet, this is refrigerated. So if you have some cold drinks and you want to keep them nice and cool on a very hot day, you can do so. But also this compartment is deep enough for a couple smartphones, maybe a wallet or 2, or other smaller gadgets. Then to round out the front seating area, above will be a panoramic moonroof, which will bring in a lot of natural light to the interior. Then moving on to the second row, the amenities and features continue. I mean, I just indulge with what this vehicle is all about because not only the exterior draws me in, but the interior as well. I've had the keys to this SVR for a couple hours now, and everywhere I look is something new and something exciting. So the same accents, the same quality that you found up front makes its way for the second row as well. And for second row passengers, the outboard seats don't feel like bench seats. They kind of feel like bucket seats. And because of that, when your driver is on a winding back road or maybe they're accelerating aggressively, you can be a part of that experience and it's going to feel very special. Whereas in some rivals that are also V8 powered, they don't give you that. So these seats, there's a decent amount of support and bolstering for second row passengers. And that way you're not swinging around too much when your driver is going into a sharp corner at high speeds. I think a lot of you are going to love that. But on top of that, from a practicality standpoint, this is a great choice for someone who wanted to buy a Jaguar F-Type but couldn't justify it because they have a family. And you have plenty of legroom, shoulder room in this vehicle. So it is going to be conducive for someone who does have a growing family or someone who wants to have friends tag along with them on a weekend journey. But for me, though, it's the features and accents that make up everything for this model. You have the carbon fiber trim on the door panels. You also have the speakers for your Meridian sound system. But then the center console, it just continues on. You have the carbon fiber trim. You also have 2 center mounted air vents. And if that wasn't enough, you have dual zone climate control back here. So 4 zone in total, but also heated and ventilated outboard seats. That is phenomenal for a vehicle at around $140,000. This is stuff that is premium luxury. And I'm so glad to see that in a vehicle like this, even though now this Range Rover Sport is considered outdated and no longer being sold as a brand new model. I just love seeing those features make its way on a vehicle in this market. You're also going to notice a 12-volt outlet and 2 USB-C inputs. And rounding out the second row seating area, you do get a center armrest with 2 cup holders. Then before we take the SVR out for a quick test drive, taking a look at the cargo area, you have right around 27.5 cubic feet of room behind the second row of seats. And this right here is where you can justify purchasing an SVR. So if you do have a family or you're going on frequent road trips, you can store all your items back here, no problem. You're also going to have a rear cargo cover, so that way if you have any valuable items like I do right now with all my camera gear, you can leave them back here and have that peace of mind knowing that nobody will be able to peek in and steal what you have. Then finally, on the right side of the cargo area, you can lower and raise the rear suspension, so that way if you have any heavy items that you want to load into your SVR, you're not scratching the Maya Blue paint color on this vehicle. And now that we've gone over everything, let's take the Range Rover Sport SVR out for a quick test drive to see how it performs. So now that we're a few years removed from this generation for the Range Rover Sport, it's easy to say that this is the last of its kind. It's a muscular SUV that can easily go head-to-head with the BMW X5M or Mercedes-Benz GLE 63. Today now with the SV Edition 1, which replaced this SVR, is more like a grand touring SUV, similar to what you're going to find in an Aston Martin DBX 707 or Bentley Bentayga. Land Rover has most certainly gone more upscale, more upmarket with this particular model for the new generation, and we saw that last year with just a regular Range Rover Sport with the inline 6. It also uses the MLA platform, which is also underpinning the larger Range Rover. So with that, it's going to be more refined, more upscale, more luxurious, and also at its base cost in the high 80s is most certainly going to be a very enticing SUV to purchase if you're looking for a luxury and exclusive experience. Whereas the SVR for this generation, and again looking at it now 2 years later, this is an affordable, muscular vehicle that has the practicality, persona, and just the street cred that you want to have in a vehicle like this. And because of that, it's a completely different perspective on this market. Now, back in the day with the SVR, you get it at a base cost of $117, and then for the Ultimate Edition, $140. Whereas the new SV Edition 1 is priced at $180,000 to start. They have most certainly taken a huge leap forward with the successor to this model. However, the reason why I pulled this from the lot is because what's under the hood. The supercharged V8 engine from a Jaguar F-Type is unbelievable. It gives you an experience that cannot be found in a lot of modern day SUVs, especially at this price point. Now, with the supercharged V8, you also get the grunt and muscle of that exhaust system. Whereas if you've had any experience with the SV Edition 1, the twin-turbo V8 from BMW is a bit more muted and not as audible or as beast-like. This is an absolute beast on the roadways, and of course with the exterior paint color, the Maya Blue color that we have here today, it draws so much attention. This is a baller SUV. Now, because this Range Rover Sport does have the D7 platform, it feels more rugged, it feels more rigid than what you're going to find in the new Range Rover Sport. Is that a bad thing? I don't think so at all, especially if you are somebody who loves to have this straight line speed and performance that also gives you a sense of luxury and quality, but it leans more towards that straight line speed. You have a very premium feeling steering wheel with aggressive 10 and 2 positions, but firm 9 and 3 grips. And I have to say, even though this platform and this suspension was not dialed in and designed for grand touring purposes or for track use, its handling is very responsive. Also, love the brake feel as well, nice and strong. Heading into the corner, not too much body roll. When you're not on throttle and you're not going 8 or 9 tenths all the time, this is actually a very suitable daily driver and is very comfortable indeed. It's quiet. The interior insulation is top notch. Also, love the interior quality with the leather on the dashboard, the carbon fiber. It just feels so nice and welcoming being behind the wheel. But the reason why I say this is the last of its kind from the brand is because you can most certainly feel it. You can feel it in the handling, you can feel it in the steering input, and you can most certainly feel it with the suspension. What Land Rover has done to the Range Rover Sport for the successor of this model, they have really gone more upscale. They've gone more premium luxury, even though Land Rover and Range Rover has always been premium luxury. Instead of going head to head on the higher end against Mercedes-Benz, Audi, and BMW, they're in a way leaving them behind to focus on manufacturers like Aston Martin, like Bentley. I would not go in the Ferrari or Lamborghini direction, but I can most certainly see them going in a direction that would bring in a more prestigious and also more exclusive customer base. And you see that with the Range Rover product line. The Defender is kind of slot into place where the SVR was, especially with the V8 for the Defender. If you remember that review, I absolutely loved it. It had that rugged feel, it had that SUV experience. And this has that same feeling, especially with the handling, especially with just the way it corners and sits on the roadways. Whereas the new Range Rover Sport kind of feels like a baby, larger Range Rover. And because of that, it gives the Defender a place in the lineup. And in retrospect, having this and the Defender would be seen as a bit of redundancy, because the Defender with the V8 can cost $120,000. And now with the SV Edition 1, that's $180,000. So now you have a strong placement for that Defender, which I know a lot of people love. And the Defender is drawing in a lot of buyers who typically would have gone into a Range Rover Sport. It's intoxicating. The snorting of that exhaust, it's like an angry hippo. It's so muscular and most certainly has some of that Jaguar F-Type DNA. And with this 8-speed automatic transmission, the gear shifts are crisp, smooth, and very responsive. They're immediate. And you hear those crackles too. It adds to the overall experience. But this right here is where the SVR is at its best, in a straight line. Well, I am more than confident in the corners with this vehicle. I know that with the new SV Edition 1 and all the development that Land Rover has made to the suspension, the chassis, the 6D dynamics, that's a more suitable SUV for a lot of enthusiasts who are getting up there in age, who have families that need an all-in-one great package. And that's not to say this isn't an all-in-one great package. But I would say this is for a completely different market, especially with the supercharged V8. So guys, I hope you enjoyed this review of the 2022 Range Rover Sport Ultimate Edition. If you did, please like, comment, share, and subscribe for more. And I will see you guys next time.